The SUNY College of Environmental Science and Forestry, founded in 1911, is now the only institution of higher learning in the United States dedicated solely to the study of natural resources and the environment.
Hello and welcome to this edition of Improve Your World with SUNY-ESF. I'm your host, Don Torrance, and today we have a little bit of a different show for you. We're going to be talking about research and exploration. ESF faculty, staff, and students are involved in a variety of learning and service projects worldwide. Our first exploration piece takes place in Dominica, where SUNY-ESF students went to study tropical ecology.
From the largest boiling lake in the world to the smallest lizard in the world, the island of Dominica is a study in contrast. There's the Atlantic Ocean on one side, the Caribbean on the other, and mountains that stretch up 4,000 feet. One part of the island is drenched by as much as 360 inches of annual rainfall, while another gets by on as little as 55 inches. Working from the Archibald Research and Education Center, SUNY-ESF professors Alan Drew and Donald Stewart conduct their annual spring course in tropical ecology that includes exploration and experimentation. Exploration means walking, a lot of walking.
Some of these hikes are not any more than half an hour. Others, the big hike that we take into Boiling Lake is about 3 hours in and a little less on the way out.
As long as he goes back.
Yeah, I don't want you back enough.
What we're looking at here is a spring emerging from the side of the mountain. The spring has a high mineral content, and so you can see the reddish brown, apparently oxidized iron, where the water from the spring is flowing over the rocks.
When we get up a little further, the stream will be nice and clear. There's no more rust.
We're walking into the area known as Fort Shirley. This is the harbor at Portsmouth, and Fort Shirley was instrumental in defending this harbor. It's probably 400 feet above the bay, thus it provides a nice view of the northern northwest coast of Dominica, as well as the town of Portsmouth. This is the New Market in Roseau, and we're in here on a Saturday morning because that's market day, and that's when people from around the island bring their produce to market to sell it, and we come here to get some appreciation of the variety of fruits and vegetables, other species that are grown on the island.
And while you're walking, you get to see interesting creatures like stick bugs and others.
That is the native anole. Dominica has one species of anole. It shows a lot of morphological variation across the island, and we've had students that have done studies on this anole. At the higher elevations, it's darker. Down along the coast, this anole is lighter in color. Here's a black crab. There are about 9 different types of crabs in Dominica. The black crab is one that is good for eating. This is at a place called Bodily Beach. It's a beach where there's a very small lizard, Spherodactylus fantasticus. It occurs beneath the litter on the floor under these mango trees. We come in here to look for this lizard. It's one of the smallest lizards in the world. They're probably not more than an inch and a quarter in length. And we usually find the lizard here. It's an example of an evolutionary process that occurs on these islands.
Experimentation means doing a project, like marking the algae level on rocks to study the grazing patterns of snails and fish, and keeping a journal with pictures, diagrams, and observations. Observations about what winds up on this beach on the ocean side of Dominica. The waves bring ashore quite a variety of plant life. It's also a black sand beach, as opposed to a white sand beach.
It's weathered igneous rock, which is, in this case, magnetite, and you can take a magnet and you can pick up pieces of the beach material with a magnet. We find all sorts of interesting things. I'm holding a piece of sponge that's washed up on the beach. There are there's a piece of sea fan and some propagules of different plants that are adapted for dispersal by sea. And so it's an important way in which plants colonize islands, dispersal by sea. And so we like to see, observe which plants are adapted in this way. And then we look at those plants that we see on the beach, and we can often find that their seeds and fruits reached Dominica by sea.
From saltwater to freshwater, the exploration also includes a boat ride on the Indian River.
The Indian River contains some very interesting freshwater swamp forest.
My dog is turning back.
What the student just held up there is part of the set from Pirates of the Caribbean. One of our students found it hanging from a tree and plucked it and took it back. And we ended up having to return it because we weren't supposed to have taken it in the first place.
Now, when we come back, we'll look at research done by SUNY-ESF students and professors on nanocrystals, coyotes, and a service project in Honduras to help bring water to an impoverished village. Stick with us.
You can improve your world by what you plant in your yard. It is commonly believed that invasive species arrived in the U.S. accidentally. Not so, according to a study by the Brooklyn Botanic Garden. They found that half of the worst invasive plant species were brought here intentionally for horticultural use. Gardening with native species is an effective way to deal with this problem. ESF's Improve Your World website has helped to find the right trees and plants.
Welcome back. One key to making plastic stronger and biodegradable is particles so small that we need powerful microscopes to see them. They're called nanocrystals, and commercial use could be just a few years away.
Researchers at the SUNY College of Environmental Science and Forestry are developing a new component for plastic that makes it stronger and biodegradable. Nanocrystals of cellulose are being extracted from natural materials like trees and shrub willows using this reactor to produce a viscous white liquid that goes into a micro-compounder where it is mixed to produce a crystal reinforced plastic, as opposed to a traditional reinforcement material like glass, which is heavier, harder to work with, not as strong, and
when you're finished using your plastic and you put it in the landfill, the glass doesn't go anywhere. It stays there for centuries. So the advantage here is we're using plant particles as an alternative to the glass. Anything which is made in nature can be destroyed in nature, and these cellulose particles have a lifetime in a landfill of less than 90 days. At which time they go back into carbon dioxide and water.
the key to making usable plastics with nanocrystals, so-called because they're so small, just billionths of a meter, is getting them to stick together with the plastic.
Cellulose is a hydrophilic material, and most of your matrix materials are hydrophobic. Those two types of materials generally don't mix well, and what we're trying to do is add some chemical groups on the surface that that'll make the cellulose more hydrophobic, so that they'll blend with the hydrophobic matrix.
The micro-compounder helps disperse the chemically altered crystals throughout the plastic material for maximum strength. Commercial use of nanocrystals, which will soon be produced as a byproduct of production of bioethanol, is 3 to 5 years away.
From research strictly in the laboratory now to a project that involves a lot of outdoor work. Dr. Jacqueline Frere and her students are working with coyotes.
We're using a high-tech approach and going with GPS collars. These collars store locations as frequently as 15 minutes if we want. We're doing 1-hour locations, and they broadcast it to a handheld unit, so we go out and contact the coyote while they're running around, download their data, and get right where they had just been, and can get out there very quickly and find what they are eating and where these things are happening.
We also do scat walks, and we look for scat on a pretty regular basis. We need to get a decent number of samples in order to get a good statistical estimate of the diet. So when we have the scat, we bag it up in nylon bags, and like I said, wash out all the fecal matter that is in there, and then open it up, and basically would open this up and pour it onto a tray. So this is likely woodchuck hair. It's a bit longer, it's bicolored. There's small mammal hair. It's very short and fuzzy and gray. Looks very much like mouse hair. So that's going to be the majority of what this coyote was eating. 1925 is the first record of a coyote showing up in New York State. You know, they were originally a western species. We came in and effectively removed wolves and cougars from the system, which created this opening for a big carnivore in the state. And coyotes moved in. They're very flexible in their natural history, and they moved in and are filling these vacant niches that were left. In recent times then, only in the past, say, 15, 20 years, have they started to occupy every county in the state, and now have become the most common and abundant large predator in the state. So now everybody knows about coyotes. They're in everyone's backyard, essentially. The DEC has been taking in all of these citizen concerns, and they came to me. They had a stack of papers saying these are the reports of people calling in about coyotes in the state. And you could divide those into 2 stacks. One being we see them and we're concerned because we see them, and those are around the cities, around Rochester and down in Westchester County was a big number of them. And then the other ones were the deer hunters that are concerned that coyotes are taking deer out of the populations.
Now, earlier we introduced you to a tropical ecology class at work in Dominica. Similar classes go to Honduras, where recently they learned about a village with some serious water problems. That has led to an engineering project.
The spectacular scenery, lush forest, friendly people belie the desperate human need in the isolated village of Buena Vista, Honduras. Living conditions are very basic. Pathways as opposed to paved roads. Laundry is done by hand. The biggest problem, though, is something we take very much for granted: clean running water.
I'm excited to go to Honduras.
You're going to go?
After one day of
The need for potable water prompted a spring break visit from 5 members of the ESF chapter of Engineers Without Borders, where they explored the village of 300 residents who eke out a living through subsistence farming and raising turkeys and pigs. It's located near the northern coast of the inland side of the Pico Bonito Mountains, so not as much rain as other parts of Honduras. Nearby water sources are contaminated with coliform, so many residents, especially the children, suffer severe intestinal problems. There is potable water a few miles away, so the ESF Engineers Without Borders are planning a gravity flow water system to bring clean water to each resident. With the help of village residents, they carved a path through the forest and surveyed the potential route for the piping system. Using the village schoolroom, once class was done, the students met with village residents who explained how they would do much of the manual labor to install the system. The students also went over their plans with a member of the Peace Corps and representatives of a Honduran nonprofit group who are helping with the project. The next step is to raise $10,000 needed to cover the cost of the piping and concrete.
One of the students on the trip to Honduras joins me now, Gwen McDonald. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Dave.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about the trip. Was this your first excursion into the Caribbean?
I actually was down in Honduras on the previous spring break with a class called Engineering in the Tropics, and I had been exposed to a previous ecological project that they had done there as a trail maintenance project. So when I returned to the States, I got involved with Engineers Without Borders, and we began to be interested in working on a project in Honduras. A few members of our group went down in May of 2007, and they found a couple different projects that we could be a part of, and this one seemed the most feasible for our group, and really they were in grave need. And so I personally came down last spring break to survey the area and to start the initialization of our water distribution system in Honduras.
Marvelous. Tell us a little bit about this group, the picture that we're seeing behind it. It's the students in the ESF, Engineers Without Borders, but it's also some of the townspeople who are going to be heavily invested in this project, right?
Correct. In the foreground, there's the students that went on the trip, as well as our translator, who's from the Peace Corps. And in the background, there's the president of the community and the president of the water board, which they've created. This whole group of us will be working together to actually dig trenches to install the water distribution network, and they really helped us throughout our entire surveying venture.
We helped to hack we saw from the pictures in the video that they literally had to hack a path through the forest in order for you just to do the surveying.
Correct. We were on a 45-degree slope in the middle of the jungle working on the surveying of this pipeline, and we couldn't have done it without the people of the community. They really, they navigated, and they, were there with their machetes literally hacking through the forest to help us get a sight line for this pipeline. So.
How long is the pipeline going to have to run?
It's over 3 kilometers, just over 3 kilometers, and there will be 2 storage tanks to 2 of the separate sub-communities. There's 3 communities really in this village, which is why it's so spread apart. Rosales, Vegas, and Esperanza are the 3 communities. So we're really supplying water to 3 separate communities, and they all are under the umbrella term Buena Vista, which is the community we have chosen to.
Oh. Why is water such a problem there? Why haven't they installed their own water system before now?
Well, they actually have a rudimentary system. However, their water source is contaminated, and their pipeline is made of rubber hose, and it leaks terribly, and not every member of the community even has running water. And every single member of the community has contaminated water that they use. The contaminated water contains coliform bacteria for the most part, and then during the heavy raining season, even more dangerous bacteria. And so the source we would be using for this network is a clean source above the contamination. And the community itself would have to work to protect that watershed before we could install the system to make sure that we're not just going to give them more contaminated water.
that would be kind of pointless, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Well, how much money is needed to come up with the supplies and the construction materials to make this project a reality?
Well, there's extensive amounts of construction materials, and including flexible piping and all the concrete necessary for the basins where the water would be held before the communities actually obtained it. So it's about $10,000 is our proposed cost for this project, which is significantly less than it would be in the United States actually for the same sort of project. But we're also accepting donations towards the ESF College Foundation to help run this project and facilitate the implementation. And if you're interested in donating to this project, you could call 315-470-6638.
How about you repeat that number?
The number again is 470-6638. And
Just
that's
like
ESF College Foundation.
Just like they do it in the infomercials.
Exactly.
But basically the money is for the supplies. It's the students, the members of the ESF Engineers Without Borders chapter, and the village residents who are going to do all the labor in making this happen.
Correct. They will be the ones digging the trenches, laying the pipe. They have actually, they are going to bring their own plumber. They are going to collect money from the community to pay their own plumber to check on the pipe monthly, which is an amazing thing for these people. They, $40 is a year's salary to them. They are very, very poor. They live on subsistence farming. They don't even really deal with money that often. So this, for them to step forward and say we're going to, protect our watershed and obtain a plumber really shows how vested they are in this project.
That's as we saw in the video that you and your comrade shot while you were down there. We're not talking paved roads or indoor plumbing or any of the things that we take for granted.
Correct. In fact, they're hoping that as a result of this project, more projects will be able to be started in the same community, including road maintenance and latrines and even some water sanitation, hopefully, so that the wastewater from the system doesn't contaminate villages further down.
Dire circumstances for the village residents, but yet from a lot of the pictures that we've seen, they look like very happy and well adjusted.
They were so welcoming to us. They were so grateful to have us there, and I couldn't have met a happier group of people. They're introducing us to their children, and they really were just interested in learning from us and wanting to teach us about their lives, share their food with us, share their homes. They're actually building a guest house for us, so that when we return, there'll be a place for future people to stay. So.
How does a project like this fit in with your major? You're in forest engineering, right?
I'm in forest engineering, yes. I'm focusing in water resource engineering, so this is actually very pertinent to what I would like to do for a living. This project not only gave me a chance to really help a community, but it gave me some exposure to something I'm really interested in professionally. And quite a few of the other students in the group are interested in water resources as well. Mark Fabian and Mitch Robinson and myself are all in a water resource focused program, but we also have a landscape architect and a forest resource management major that went down to Honduras with us. So we had a lot of different backgrounds coming together to really help this community, and they all brought a little different piece to the table.
Yeah, I would imagine the landscape architect, especially when you were up on those 45-degree hills trying to figure out which way is the piping going to go, would be helpful in a situation like that?
Yes, definitely. And also, we besides just the actual surveying while we were down there and the designing, which is a lot of engineering work, we've had to put together fundraising and put together different publicity, and it's really helped to have many different students involved so that we can put together the best presentation possible of the work we have done.
You got to feel very good about participating in something like this.
Oh yeah, it's so rewarding. It was great to go down there and just meet these people that I've made friends there besides just helping a local community, and it really gives you a sense of accomplishment, definitely.
Excellent, nice work, and look forward to getting further updates on how the project moves along.
Yeah.
You want to give that number one more time in case people are interested in helping out financially?
The number again is 315-470-6638.
Very good, thank you. Gwen McDonald, member of the ESF Engineers Without Borders chapter. Stay tuned. Coming up, a car that smells like French fries, and one more trip overseas.
You can improve your world by learning more about it. From black bears in the Adirondacks to the restoration of Atlantic salmon in Lake Ontario and its tributaries, and the growing number of coyotes all across the state, SUNY-ESF offers details in its environmental information series. Do we need to encourage growth or curtail it? Get the facts, then you decide. There's also advice for developing environmentally sensitive landscapes, how to test your soil pH, and what it means.
Welcome back. Often good ideas come from a simple question. A student asked, why couldn't ESF make biodiesel to help power the college's vehicles? The answer? You're right. We'll buy the equipment, you make it happen. And he did.
This waste vegetable oil, once used to cook up French fries in Sadler Dining Hall, is heading for a former greenhouse on the campus of the SUNY College of Environmental Science and Forestry. ESF senior Greg Boyd and his helpers will turn the waste cooking oil from Syracuse University into environmentally friendly biodiesel fuel. The fryer oil in this 55-gallon drum is strained and pumped into the bioprocessor.
We add the methanol and the sodium hydroxide into their own ports. We add sulfuric acid, which is used to neutralize the free fatty acids which are produced from frying the oil. So we add all the components to the machine, and after 24 hours we have the biodiesel and the glycerol.
And ESF scientists have a use for the glycerol in addition to the traditional uses.
We're actually making biodegradable plastic from the glycerol. It's fully recyclable. You can make soap from the glycerol. It goes into a lot of makeup products.
17% of the ESF fleet of vehicles runs on a biodiesel mixture, usually B20.
This is a demonstration to show that biodiesel is safe and it works well as a fuel.
Greg's pretty sure it works well. He's been running it in his own car for the past 2.5 years.
Now, over 17% of the ESF vehicle fleet operates on biodiesel. Finally, we take one more trip overseas, this time to Australia. These students traveled to the tropics there and the Great Barrier Reef over winter break.
Australia was the experience of a lifetime. We saw and experienced things that I personally never thought imaginable. You always hear that Australia is a biodiversity hotspot in the world, and there's so many different things and all these different niches, and you really can't comprehend or understand it until you're there and you really see it for yourself. It truly is amazing.
Well, my project based on assessing and comparing aquatic insect diversity in northern Queensland, Australia. And I had originally taken an entomology course and had always been interested in the aquatic insect itself. So I learned a lot about the different kinds of families of aquatic insects and how to ID them and how to run several statistical analysis on how to actually put all of the data we collected in a numerical format that can come to some solid sort of conclusion.
These are called wedge-tailed shearwaters. They're marine birds. We wanted to see what, if any, if there was a difference in the way they reacted to human presence, depending on what path they were, I guess, living on.
The project here is about the food preferences of the musky rat kangaroo. And what we did was we went through the forest and we picked up several different fruits that were prevalent, that we found that were quite abundant. And we set up food stations throughout the Dametree property, and we wanted to compare what they preferred over what they didn't prefer.
This trip has been going on for a couple of years, and no one had ever done anything aquatic insect related. As opposed to assessing these streams, the certain streams that we used, which was Cooper Creek and 2 nearby tributaries, I don't believe that anyone had done any scientific data on them. And it's really cool the fact that we were able to bring live specimens over. Well, not live, preserved.
What's special about Australia is that it's a unique ecosystem. There's many plants and animals that are endemic to only Australia or only certain parts of Australia. One of my other projects, we studied a marsupial that's only found in that specific location. So it gives you the opportunity to study animals that most people never get to see, and along with just those developing research skills, allows you to develop those research skills in this exotic and beautiful environment.
It was absolutely incredible. And the amount of rain, the rain that we saw and experienced is uncomprehendable. There was, I think, a period of 4 days where we got 3 feet of rain, and I have never seen that much.
Well, thanks for joining us on this edition of Improve Your World with SUNY-ESF. If you'd like to check out some more research and exploration, please go to our website, www.esf.edu. I'm your host, Don Torrance. Be sure to tune in next time for Improve Your World.